We are officially halfway through 2026, and I'm gonna say something I genuinely mean. This has been one of the best years for movies I can remember in a long time. Horror that got under your skin and refused to let go. Animated films that hit you right in the chest. A survival thriller that most people slept on. And a horror film made for $750,000 that made $371 million worldwide. Today, I'm gonna give you my personal top 5 movies of 2026 so far, halfway through the year. Welcome back to Moody at the Movies. I'm your host, Mr. Moody, and this is the channel where I go see a movie in theaters and I immediately need to come here and talk to you guys about it. I rank everything on my 5-scale popcorn bucket rating system, 5 being it's worth every kernel, and 1 being they burnt the popcorn. This time we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm ranking my top 5 favorite movies of 2026 halfway through the year. We're going to start at 5 and we're going to count down to 1. Let's hop straight into it. Starting at number 5, The Backrooms. A24, directed by Kane Parsons, who you also might know online as Kane Pixels, the VFX animator, who made the original viral Backrooms YouTube series as a teenager. A24 saw what he was doing, they gave him $10 million and a cast of serious actors and said, go make your movie. And the result is one of the most genuinely atmospheric horror experiences of 2026 so far. A strange doorway appears in the basement of a furniture showroom, a man walks through it and disappears into a dimension beyond reality, and a therapist has to go in after him. That's it. And the simplicity of it is a strength. The movie isn't trying to over-explain itself. What Backrooms does better than almost any horror film this year is the atmosphere. The practical sets are extraordinary, with over 30,000 square feet of endless hallways and flickering fluorescent light. It was so convincing that crew members apparently got lost in these endless hallways on the production set, which is kind of funny to hear about. And Kane Parsons, he uses every inch of the set masterfully, and this movie just builds dread through silence, through space, and through that constant feeling of something being deeply wrong that you just can't quite identify. And there's a found footage sequence in this film that is among the most genuinely tense horror filmmaking I've seen in years. And it just had me physically sitting up in my seat, and that kind of thing is rare. Renata Reinsve and Chiwetel Ejiofor genuinely are both outstanding actors in this film, and it just brings this whole film together. They both give off the weirdness and the emotional anchor that a horror film like this just genuinely needs, and it paid off. And the fact that this became A24's biggest opening ever and made Kane Parsons the youngest filmmaker to reach #1 at the box office, it's one of the best stories in cinema this year. The Backrooms gets a 4 out of 5 for me. Grab the large, and let's get into number 4. At number 4, Lee Cronin's The Mummy, and before I say anything else, this is not your 1999 Brendan Fraser Mummy. This is something completely different and far darker. Lee Cronin, the director of Evil Dead Rise, takes this concept somewhere genuinely unsettling and personal in a way that the franchise has never attempted. With James Wan and Jason Blum both producing, this thing has serious horror pedigree, and it delivers. A journalist's young daughter disappears into the Egyptian desert without a trace. 8 years pass, the family is shattered, and then she comes back, mummified, and what should be the most joyful reunion imaginable turns into something that is anything but. The way this film builds its dread is masterful. Slow, deliberate, letting you sit in the wrongness of everything you're seeing long before the horror fully arrives. Cronin described this as Poltergeist meets Seven, and that energy is kind of carried throughout the entirety of this movie. You feel the weight of this family's grief before anything supernatural actually does happen. The practical effects and prosthetics in this movie are absolutely extraordinary. The mummified daughter is one of the most visually striking and genuinely unsettling horror creations I've seen in recent memory, and it feels tactical and real in a way that CGI almost never achieves. Jack Raynor and Layla Costa as the parents are both excellent, and you feel their devastation immediately. Lee Cronin's The Mummy is a movie with real personal stakes and real emotional weight, and this movie gets a 4 out of 5 popcorn bucket rating for me. Grab the large. Ongoing. Let's get into number 3 on this list. At number 3, and this one genuinely surprised me in the best way possible, Hoppers. Now going into this movie, I was already a big fan of animation films, and Hopper didn't just meet my expectations, they exceeded them. And the fact that it's sitting at number 3 on my list halfway through the year tells you exactly how strong I think this movie is. The premise of this movie is that scientists have developed technology that lets you hop your human consciousness into a robotic animal, and you experience the world from that animal's perspective. There's a young girl named Mabel, and she uses this technology to communicate directly with the animal kingdom. And what starts as a curiosity turns into something that genuinely changes her life. It sounds wild, but Pixar commits to it fully, and it works beautifully on every level. What makes Hopper stand out is how it works on multiple levels simultaneously. The animation style is stunning, vibrant, richly detailed, and alive in a way that makes the animal world feel completely real and completely magical at the same time. The voice acting is excellent across the board. The storytelling is layered and smart. There is a genuine message woven through the whole film that never once feels preachy because it's wrapped in such a funny, warm, and genuinely entertaining story. And then the emotional factor. That's one thing that Pixar can say that no animation studio in the world does like them. This movie genuinely made me feel things that I was not expecting to feel going into it. One specific storyline in the movie was involving Mabel and her grandmother, and that hits you in the chest in a way where you're completely not prepared for. There's genuine laughs, genuine wonder, and then something that catches you totally off guard emotionally throughout this movie. And that is Pixar at its absolute best. So the Hoppers, for me, that gets a 4 out of 5 popcorn bucket rating. Definitely grab the large for this one. Definitely a rewatch. And let's continue and let's get into number 2 on this list. At number 2 on this list, Send Help, directed by Sam Raimi, Evil Dead, Spider-Man. This is the survival thriller that dropped in January, and it genuinely deserves way more attention than it got. The premise is deceptively simple. It's 2 colleagues that survive a plane crash, and they end up stranded alone on a desert island. One of them is the other's boss, the boss who has made their professional's life a living nightmare. And from that setup, Sam Raimi builds something that works on every single level. Part survival thriller, part dark comedy, part psychological battle of wills, and it just absolutely delivers. Now, the standout in this movie is Rachel McAdams, and I believe she delivers one of the most amazing performances in her entire career in the film industry. From the moment she's on the screen, you are just completely locked in. Her frustration, her resourcefulness, the genuine strength that she finds as the situation becomes more and more impossible. She just makes you feel everything her character is going through without ever needing to over-explain any of it. She carries the entire movie on the strength of her performance alone and makes it look completely effortless. And Daniel O'Brien as the boss in this movie is just the perfect casting. I don't think they could have hit it on the head any further than that. Sam Raimi's direction keeps everything tense and propulsive even during the quieter character moments. And the dark humor woven through the whole thing, it just gives it a uniquely entertaining tone unlike anything else that came out this year. Send Help coming in at number 2 means it was right there with my number 1 spot. And with January movies, they hardly get any recognition when you're getting towards the end of the year. So I wanted to give it some well-deserved love, and Send Help was one of the best movies of 2026 so far. Sam Raimi's Send Help is definitely a movie that deserves the recognition halfway through 2026. Rachel McAdams is great. Dylan O'Brien is great. And this movie just really is something different from everything else we have this year. So with that being said, Send Help does get a 4 out of 5 popcorn bucket rating for me. Definitely go grab that large. Definitely go watch it right now. And without further ado, let's get into our number 1 spot, which I think we all know what it's gonna be. And now taking the top spot halfway through 2026, I think we can all expect it. Obsession. Oh yeah! Let me tell you the story behind this movie before I tell you about the movie itself. Obsession was made by a 26-year-old first-time feature director named Curry Barker, and for a budget of $750,000, it grossed $371 million worldwide. It became Focus Features' highest-grossing film of all time, and it turned its lead actress Indy Navarrete into one of the most talked-about performers in Hollywood overnight. That story alone is one of the most extraordinary things to happen in cinema in years. And Obsession proves something I've always believed. With the right idea, the right talent, and the right execution, Budget means absolutely nothing. Just hopefully we get more great films just like this one in the future. Now here's what the movie is. Bear is a quiet, lovesick music store employee who has been silently obsessed with his coworker Nikki for years. And he finds a supernatural toy called the One Wish Willow that grants the wish of whoever breaks it. He breaks it, he wishes for Nikki to fall in love with him. She does, and then the consequences of that wish spiral into something genuinely horrifying and completely unpredictable. I'm not going to say anything more than that because Obsession is a movie you want to go into knowing as little as possible. I know it's been out for a while now, but just in case some of you haven't somehow seen it, I would love for you to go watch it for yourself. Now, what makes this movie extraordinary is the performances. Every single person in this cast brings something real and specific to this story. But the reason Obsession is my number one, the reason it's crossed $371 million on a budget of $750,000 is Indy Navarrete. She starts this movie as completely warm, charming, and likable. And then she transformed gradually, precisely, and in a way so controlled and so terrifying that you barely notice it happening until you're already way too far in. Now, there are moments in this film where she genuinely makes you feel uncomfortable as a viewer. And that's not due to shock factor or gore, but that's because she just makes every moment feel completely real. Indy Navarrete isn't just good in this film, she's an absolute star, and I can't wait to see the future work she does. Also, Curry Barker directs this film as someone who fundamentally understands how horror works at its deepest level. Not just cheap jump scares, not loud music strings, just atmosphere. And just dread, just the feeling that something is deeply and fundamentally wrong before anything has even happened yet. For $750,000, the craft on the screen is nothing short of remarkable. And the fact that this came from a filmmaker who built his audience on YouTube makes it one of the most inspiring filmmaking stories I've ever seen. And with all that being said, Obsession definitely deserves the #1 spot halfway through 2026. It's an exceptional movie. They nail everything. They hit everything on the head. They hit it all out the park. And I would definitely go watch this movie immediately. For me, this is the first ever 5 out of 5 popcorn bucket rating on my channel. It's worth every kernel. Go watch it immediately right now. That's my top 5 movies halfway through 2026, and this year's been an extraordinary year for movies across all genres, and I can't wait to see what else we have in store for the second half of 2026. And now I want to know yours. What's your #1 movie halfway through 2026? Do you agree with what I said, or do you disagree with my rankings? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new here and you like this style, honest rankings, real talk, no hype, hit subscribe. I cover new releases and I'd love to have you along for the rest of the ride this year. And I'll see you at the movies.